The coming food shortage. Since the beginning of time, mankind has experienced food shortages. The first and most memorable incident was in Egypt, where Joseph the Hebrew was sold as a slave to the Africans by his brothers. He used his gift of interpreting dreams to interpret a nightmare for the Pharaoh of 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine and drought. There are numerous famines mentioned in Scripture. In the days of Abraham, Isaac, the judges, during the time of the kings, the siege of Samaria, and of Jerusalem. The Messiah warned the apostles in Matthew chapter 24, verse 7, that war, famine, and pestilence in diverse places would be the beginning of sorrows for our time. When he had opened the third seal, I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see, thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Revelation chapter 6, verse 5 through 6. This is important since a denarius, or penny, was a day's wage, so many would be able to buy only enough wheat for 1 meal, and for barley 3 meals. However, there would be nothing left for the oil and wine, since these common household items would become staples for the rich. When he opened the 4th seal, behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth, to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death. Revelation chapter 6, verse 7 through 8. According to the news, this year alone, food riots have taken place in Haiti, Egypt, Cameroon, the Ivory Coast, Senegal, Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Mauritania, Madagascar, the Philippines, Pakistan, and in Mexico. The coming food shortage will affect men globally, and the signs are already upon us. What has brought us to such a state? Farming is looked down upon as a job for the lowly. For years, farmers have been migrating to the cities since governments favor urban dwellers over those in rural areas. The price of food is kept lower in the cities at the expense of the farmer. But the driving factors are this. There is a core of power-hungry corporations that are systematically taking over the food supply to gain monopolistic control. What's at stake is not merely control over food profits, but their actions are destroying the very agricultural biodiversity that will one day fulfill the prophecy of the upcoming global food crash. Using a process called bio-piracy, stealing the inventions of nature and then declaring them to be theirs, corporations are claiming they've come to the world's rescue with a new breed of genetically engineered crops that can produce more abundantly and faster. But they don't tell you about the evils of these GM foods and disease that they cause, nor does the U.S. label them so that you know that they are Franken-foods. Genetically modified crops became a tidal wave after the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to allow corporations to patent life in 1980. That's right, patent life. Big AG firms began to patent every seed they could obtain, then used intellectual property law to extort imperialistic profits from farmers, universities, and research institutions globally because they're now using seeds that the corporations own. GM foods appear on the market in seedless versions of fruit and vegetables. Crops have also sprung up in unusual colors, in wild shapes, odd sizes, and little or no nutritional value. GM crops have a direct link to the former mystery illness Morgellons disease. The symptoms are rashes and intensely itchy sores which produce multicolored fibers from the skin. No longer rare, the fibers contain DNA from both a fungus and bacterium, which are used in the commercial preparation of genetically modified foods and non-food crops like cotton. The diseased fibers are primarily cellulose, which the human body cannot break down or manufacture. Thus, GM technology has brought an inanimate object to life, growing and dividing while living beneath the skin, forming parasitic lesions. They don't tell you that GM foods contain injected pesticides, viruses, and invading genes, even terminator genes that make crops and seeds unhealthy and die. Synthetic chemicals wash off farmlands into the aquatic ecosystems of rivers, wetlands, and oceans. They are creating dead zones that can't support aquatic life, thereby eliminating our water food sources. The use of biosolids on food crops has suddenly caused E. coli to become woven into the very fabric of the fruit and vegetables they have invaded. Biosolids are the very sewage sludge that is removed from water sources after it goes through a water treatment facility. Biosolids are drugs, chemicals, oil, bacteria, fungus, viruses, and human urine and feces. Say hello to Frankenfoods. Global fruit prices rocketed by 83% in the last year, causing violent food conflicts around the world. Millions of poor people in the third world now risk being evicted from their homes and becoming homeless as vast tracts of land are converted to produce ethanol and other biofuels. Converting food into fuel when food sources are becoming scarce and overpriced is not a good policy for the poor nor for the environment. Weather imbalance, as well as bad weather and drought, has affected 3 of the world's 4 major wheat producers, Australia, Canada, and the Ukraine, which caused the price of wheat to rise drastically. This year, it was floods in the U.S. Corn Belt that left other fields too soggy to plow or to plant. Then there was a famine in the days of David, 3 years, year after year. And David inquired of Yahweh, and Yahweh answered, "It is for Saul and for his bloody house, because he slew the Gibeonites." 2 Samuel chapter 21, verse 1. Yahweh has always used disease, war, and famine to punish nations for not keeping his commandments. Our actions harm us, others, and the earth. I have sent among you the pestilence after the manner of Egypt, yet you have not returned unto me, said Yahweh. He that is far off shall die of the pestilence, and he that remains shall die by the famine. Thus I will accomplish my fury upon them. Then you shall know that I am Yahweh, when their slain men shall be among their idols round about their altars. Amos chapter 4, verse 10, and Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 13.